Hey everyone, this is Mike, better known as Jaggerjaw on Twitch.tv. I'm a Twitch streamer and a horror aficionado, and you're listening to the Victims and Villains podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Victims and Villains podcast.
This is the show where we talk nerd, we talk hope, and we speak nothing else.
I am your co-host, Dan Rockwood.
And I am your other co-host, Captain Nostalgia.
And today, this is episode 334, talking about 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, the Wes-Craven classic.
The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Help me, please!
Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. Rated R.
Personally, I saw for the first time this week, so you get to see a brand new 2020 perspective on this film. And I know Josh and our guest here, Mike, you guys are big fans of this series. So I've been excited. I've been looking forward to this episode because this is a movie that I have known about my whole life and just never got around to seeing. And now I know what it's all about and why people have nightmares on Elm Street.
So a couple years ago, this is kind of a redux for Victims. A couple years ago, back when we were still doing Nerd News, we had actually done a segment with David Bigler from based on a true crime podcast. We did one, Anthony Rippo, the Retro Gamers podcast, and then a comic author, Gary Goldstein. We did these panels where we would talk about mental health throughout the entirety of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And with those episodes, we actually ran a Nightmare on Elm Street fundraiser where my wife would crochet Freddy-Krueger sweater caps. I'm actually wearing it right now, so I'm actually going to turn on my camera for you guys to see. I have the hat on. Because my wife, as I was watching it last night, she was like, "Oh, hey, you guys need to do it." And you guys can still get one from our Etsy shop. I'll provide a link in the description. You just have to go to custom order, and she'll make them for you. All the money goes towards suicide prevention, getting resources into schools and conventions. But before we talk about nightmares and boiler rooms, let's get to know our guest just a little bit better. He is known as Jaggerjaw over on Twitch, and I'm curious, this is the first time we've ever had a Twitch streamer on the show, so congratulations on taking our V card.
Oh, sweet. Happy to have that.
So how did you kind of get started? Because I'm always kind of curious about this, how people kind of start their channels and whatnot.
Oh, what, on Twitch?
Yeah.
Well, I've started a Twitch channel probably about 5 times now.
Nice.
I started one in high school where I was literally just playing. How would I play back? I played RuneScape. I had no microphone. I had no camera. It was literally just me streaming the game RuneScape from my cruddy laptop that I had. And I had maybe 1 or 2 viewers every now and then, and it would just fall off. So I quit, and then I tried again in college when Diablo 3 came out. Tried to ride the popularity of that, and that fell off again. I just didn't have time for it. I tried to do music production streams on Twitch. That never took off. And then just earlier this year, this newest channel just started back in May. I just decided I had a little extra birthday money lying around. I'll buy a few upgrades to my PC, buy a better camera, and just kind of start playing games that I want to play. And I kind of gravitated towards the horror genre and just played off of my love for horror films and horror games. And it stuck this time. I actually made affiliate within a couple months, and I'm well on my way to becoming a Twitch partner.
Wow, it's hugely congratulations. I feel like that was kind of how I tried to horribly make an attempt at doing a Victims and Villains. We still have a Twitch, we just never use it. kind of like streaming, I'd be like, I'm not feeling it tonight. But the key to like actually like making like things like affiliates and partners is like being consistent.
It's not so much as being consistent, is just having relatable content, like finding what your market is and kind of just sticking to you being you. You don't want to present content out there that's not wholly you and something you can't stand behind. See me, I just I turn on my camera and I'm just myself when I'm playing the game. I trash talk my teammates. I mock the survivors that I'm chasing when I'm playing Dead by Daylight. It's just stuff that I normally do. It's just there's a camera on me and I have people I can interact with. So I bring other friends in with me and it's a lot of fun. And then I interact with my chat and it's basically the things that I'm already doing. I just don't feel as insane because I actually have an audience watching me.
That's fair. And again, like Twitch is like something that I know very little about. So I'm happy to have you here. What are the days that you do stream though?
I stream on Tuesday and Thursday nights from 6 to 10, and then I stream Fridays from 7 till whenever we stop. I usually do our Twitch family game night on Friday nights. We'll play party games with a few of my friends and a bunch of my other streamer buddies. And then on Sundays, I started doing Storytime Sundays. I'll do a marathon game where I start a game fresh and play until it's done all day Sunday.
Wow.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I learned this past week, I did Blair Witch from start to finish. I learned that it can definitely be a little damaging to your psyche. I had a rough couple of days after that because if you watch the on-demand video of me playing the game, you can see I start the stream super happy, super excited to play this game, and I'm all into it. By the ending scene, I'm just blankly staring at my screen, shaking. Like you could see my psyche just kind of slowly break down as I play the game. And that's what the game was intended to do. I just didn't expect it to have that big of an effect on me.
I wanted to play that game so bad. I'm not really into games, but there are some times where like I'll just catch the fever. And when I saw the trailer for Blair Witch, it was definitely something that I wanted to see and I wanted to play. So hearing that is actually more encouraging for me to play it.
It's definitely worth playing. The Blooper team, they did a phenomenal job. They have another game where it's unrelated to any other like pop culture film where you're an artist and you're trying to paint your masterpiece, but you keep getting distracted by images of your own psychosis. And it's a very psychologically enthralling game. Both of them are. Like, I mean, as you're playing in Blair Witch, you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden you hear whispers in your ear like you're worthless and you're not good enough. And then your character starts to have PTSD moments. And it's actually a really good, like, psychological example as far as games go. It's very interesting.
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text HELP to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please,
Mike, you're not the
stay
only
with us.
one that has been having some psyche problems as of late. A little girl named Nancy also has them, and Dan, you just got acquainted with Nancy not too long ago. So let's talk some Nightmare on Elm Street, gentlemen, because I am always reminded how much I love this franchise when someone suggests that we do it, and I am so glad that you suggested this one, Dan. What took you so long to actually get down to watching it, though? I'm curious.
So I think it's one of those things where I just never really had the chance to watch it growing up, and it was never presented to me. I never really had friends who were super into it, who said, hey, let's watch this movie. And as much as I try to keep up with current films, there's a huge backlog of big classics that I had never seen. A perfect example is I made a calendar of movies, Halloween, horror to watch throughout October this year. Many of them I had never seen, including all 7 of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'm 1 movie in so far, 6 more to go. But last night I watched Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho for the very first time ever in my life. And the idea that movie is actually turning 60 years old this year blows my mind, because I feel like growing up I heard people talk about it. I remember seeing that movie in Blockbuster when I would go, and I'd be like, oh man, that looks super scary. I got to check that out. So having been, updated with Psycho is super cool. Watching Nightmare on Elm Street, I really like this movie. And, it caught me a little by surprise in that a couple of years ago, I watched Friday the 13th for the first time, and I was expecting just kind of like a cheesy 80s slasher horror movie, and came off it surprised that it was actually a genuinely good movie, from the writing, the acting, the way it was directed. Like, there were so many good elements to this film. And Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel like there's a similar feeling there, that you have this movie that has become so well known through pop culture, and it has been parodied so many times, and yet it still holds up and is really great. I had no idea until I put the movie in that Johnny Depp is in this movie. I had no clue. And this is, I guess, where he got his start at acting. And there's a very, very young Johnny Depp in this movie, which was wild for me.
So I guess I can't really say anything, because it wasn't until a couple years ago that I had seen Friday the 13th as well. And you guys are kind of hearing me go through them all the time with our good friend Anthony Ribbo over at the Retro Gamers podcast, because every Friday the 13th we've been covering another Friday the 13th movie until we come to the full franchise. But Freddy-Krueger I grew up in a pretty conservative household, and so horror was not a movie genre that we watched. And I remember when I was 18, I went and got a Blockbuster card and just rented a crap ton of movies, opened up Netflix account back when they still did snail mail, and I think you can still get DVD, Blu-ray sent to your door. And like some of the first movies I was getting was like Psycho and like Nightmare on Elm Street, and like just going through like Wes Craven's like filmography, from like The Hills Have Eyes to The Last House on the Left, Swamp Thing, and just kind of really just digging in deep. And there's something special when you get to Freddy-Krueger that I think for this film, this is not my favorite in the franchise anymore, but it was kind of my introduction to the franchise, as I'm sure it was for most people. But the performance, the music, atmospheric, the way that it's like the lighting is like, there's just something that holds up significantly well with this movie. And I think when you try and go back and visit other movies from this era, they don't necessarily have that grace when it comes to aging. They just look like as Dan